Okay, tapped here to share your live show. Okay, I am on live with us again with Felicia and Jen, just waiting on my two co-hosts, Jennifer and Ann, to enter the live studio. Ann, are you there? All right. Jen, are you there?
No,
I hear you though. Let's see. I think I hear myself in someone's phone. I'm not sure who.
I just muted myself.
Oh, okay. Oh, that sounds perfect. We're just waiting on Jen. How's it going, Ann? Since we are live,
I'm glad that this is hopefully working.
I can hear you loud and clear. Just waiting on Jen. This is for those of you who are listening, this is our very first, it's us again with Felicia and Jen live recording. So we have no clue. Jen, are you there?
I am. I'm here.
Oh my gosh, and I hear you clearly. Woohoo! We are not going to tell people how long it took us to do this.
Oh my.
We're not going to tell people at all. But we're live. We're
Yes.
We
live.
are.
We are waiting to do this. So Ann, before we get to the questions, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Ann Jones. I've lived here in St. Mary's County my entire life, and I am a big history buff. Well, kind of a big history buff. I mainly loved history in school, and so now I get to play doing history stuff even grown up.
So there's this thing called Pennsic. What and where is Pennsic? What is Pennsic and where does Pennsic happen?
So Pennsic is a large war. I'm in a group called the SCA, which stands for the Society of Creative Anachronisms. And basically what we do is we reenact the lives that you might have back in medieval times, like the BCs up through the Elizabethan times. There's actually 3 wars in the United States. There's Pennsic, which happens in August, the last weekend of July, beginning of August. There's another one called Gulf Wars. It's down in Mississippi. And there's one out in California somewhere that I'm not quite sure the name of it. But yeah, it all started with a bunch of people who wanted to go out and beat each other up, kind of, and recreate that time of the nights.
Wow. So how did you get into Pennsic?
So I got into Pennsic because of my husband. We started dating. That was one of the things he brought up right at the beginning was, I do this thing where I go out and dress up in armor and we fight and we live this medieval life. And I thought, well, that sounds really interesting. I wasn't sure necessarily if I was going to have fun with it, but I quickly began to like it. If nothing else, I get to wear a dress and spin around in circles and watch my dress fly out at the bottom. I'm like a little kid sometimes when it comes to that. But yeah, he introduced me to it. He was in it for a couple years before I met him. And now we're going on 20 some years later and I'm still whacking at it. But now I also fight. When I first began, I didn't fight. Yeah, so when I first started in the SCA, I just kind of followed along behind him and was like his little squire, you would say, that I would help him get his armor on and carry his helmet and so forth that when we would go to battles. But one year he thought, well, I want to get you on the field with me, so I'll do something that you can do. And I said, I don't want to be in the middle of the fray. So he said, well, I'll do something you can get in the back. So he made me a ballista, which is basically a crossbow on wheels on steroids. It's huge. But I get to be in the back of everything and just shoot big, long arrows at people in the middle that are fighting with what they call Pennsic, which is the shield and their sword. So
Do you get unlimited lives?
no, you don't.
Oh, you only get to
No,
die once?
it depends on the battle, actually. They
Okay.
it's most scenarios they have you get so many hits. I think we get either 3 hits with the bolts, or someone can actually walk up with their sword and tap the machine and say, okay, I've killed it and we're done. But then they have other scenarios where you get a certain number of reses. Like at Pennsic, they do the castle battle, and the scenario is kind of one-sided in one side gets unlimited lives while the other side doesn't. You get hit once, you're done, and then they have a halfway mark and you flip, and if you were outside, now you're inside and you get unlimited, and the outside doesn't get any more lives. So it all kind of depends on the battle.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So before Pennsic, were you previously interested in anything similar to this?
I liked history in general. Like I liked going to like Point Lookout or St. Mary's City or the History Channel. I was really big on watching the History Channel. I liked those shows. But Pennsic itself, or the medieval itself, I really wasn't like pinpointed on that until I met my husband, and now I'm a little more pinpointed. He has what they call a Roman persona, so he's more into the Roman history, and I'm kind of follow along with that. I eventually would like to learn how to cook some of the foods that they ate at that point in time, which are kind of interesting. If you know your Latin, you can read up on them, but that's about all.
Wow. So with Pennsic, you're camping, right? So
Yes.
you're living the life in the tent, and are you eating those foods, or are you just like just eating
Actually,
like
so when we go to Pennsic, we kind of, it's more of a glamping almost. It's like half regular camping, half medieval camping. So we do have a canvas tent that we live in for 2 weeks at a time. There's no AC. So being that it is July, August, you are dealing with the heat, and being that it's in Butler, Pennsylvania, Slippery Rock at Cooper's Lake, you get what they call plains weather. So you could be boiling during the day and freezing at night. But food wise, we eat pretty good. Like, we have a bunch of cooks in our camp, so we make anything from like Chinese food, chili, lasagna. If we can cook it on a camp stove, we will try it. Or over a fire.
I love the
We've even
food.
done over the fire
wow,
cooking. Yeah.
right? Oh wow, that's really cool. So that being said, like being camping and having your armor and your weapons, how long does it take you to prepare to get ready to go?
So we start like really getting gung ho about preparing sometime around the April time frame. Pennsic pre-reg has actually opened right now. It opens the first week in January, and it runs up till June. So we'll probably decide whether or not we're definitely going about the end of April so that we can get our registration in to be with our camp. And then the end of June into July, it's frantic panic, getting things straight, getting armor repaired real fast, fixing bolts that we need for the ballista, making sure that we make the arrangements for my puppy dog to go to Camp Grandma. So it takes a little while to get up and going, and then to actually leave the day of, it's a 9-hour drive for us. So we're up
You're
for it,
dedicated.
but it does take a little while.
You're definitely dedicated. Definitely. So
Yes.
what would you say is the best and the worst part about it, in your opinion?
The best part about it is being outside and getting to see different people who have different personas. I've seen people who do the Elizabethan stuff, but then I've also seen people who are doing the Chinese and Japanese at that time period. Just learning interesting things. The downside of it, though, is that it does get a little preachy sometimes with politics and the heat, but you kind of can dismiss that as long as you're having fun.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So, knowing us, and knowing us, both of us, for quite a few years now,
Yeah.
do you think that Felicia and I would survive Pennsic?
Felicia and you might be able to survive, but I think it might be only a day or two. I think you guys could maybe do the hotel. There are some people who do the hotel thing that they'll come up for a couple days, but I mean, if you can deal with being outside in the sun for a while, I think it's possible.
No.
Could I just come for the food?
Is there a pool?
No, there's no pool. There is a lake because it's at Cooper's Lake. There is a lake, but you have to find the right swimming hole because apparently the lake does have leeches, from what I've been told.
Oh,
But there is
Oh,
not good.
I've heard rumor that there is a swimming hole someplace. I've never gone to find it, but I've heard that it is there. So
I remember you telling me there's certain camps that pretty much what happens at Pennsic stays at Pennsic.
yes,
Kind
those would be the camps that are mostly down in the bog. They're what I would call free loving camps, where yes, they are very active in like being personable, and they have a lot of parties. I don't attend those parties. I've never attended those parties. I think my first Pennsic, I went with some friends down to the bog, and they took me over a pirate ship to some party where there was a guy dancing with fire sticks and playing drums. But other than that, I've never really gone to the big party scene. I'm more of a homebody.
Is Pennsic not kid friendly then?
It is kid friendly. They do have kids activities. It's all about where you go and which camps you go to. Most camps are pretty laid back and they're kid friendly, but there are other camps that are not so kid friendly, and everyone already knows which ones of those camps not to take their kids to. They kind of parental supervision is definitely a must, but they do have kids battles. They do water battles. There is kids that are learning to fight in armor. They kind of wear lacrosse gear and they do the sword and shield stuff. So there is that opportunity, and unfortunately there's not a lot of young people in SCA anymore. So hopefully new generations will start to come in soon, and they'll be able to do some of this stuff, and it'll be a little more kid-friendly, hopefully, in certain areas.
do y'all
Well,
advertise?
yeah, I was gonna say we can advertise here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Go to Pennsic.
uh, Butler County, their news crew has actually done a couple stories on Pennsic a couple times. You can go on YouTube and find different videos of the battles. You can also find the videos from the news broadcasts. One of the broadcasts, actually one year, if I remember right, somewhere they were talking about a battle and they were showing a guy getting hit in the head with a ballista bolt. That's me that hit him in the head with the ballista bolt. So like that was like a big deal to me. But yeah, if you go on YouTube, you can see there's local groups. You can actually go to sca.org and look up your local group. There's groups from all over the world, actually. People come from Pennsic. They've come as far away as Australia or the United Kingdom, so it's a big thing. I have magnet on my refrigerator says, I went camping with 10,000 of my closest friends, because it turns into its own city for 2 weeks out of the year. So it's pretty big. Yeah.
Do y'all stay in contact when you're not at Pennsic? Like, do you talk to some of the individuals?
Yeah. So our campmates and us, we do things outside of Pennsic occasionally. We're kind of in a medium where some of our friends are older than us, and now we're kind of in between. The parents are older and the kids are younger, so we're kind of in that in between area. But we've done things like geek nights where we go to the movies together, or we do other SCA things. I have friends where we do archery practice at their house occasionally with them, or we go out to dinner. We tried doing D&D once with them. It didn't quite work out for us, but we've done it. But yeah, we try to stay in contact off and on throughout the year with our closer friends that we do for Pennsic. And the other people that we might see at Pennsic, we might see them at a local event that they're having.
Cool. Cool.
Hmm. So I have a question for you, Felicia, thinking about, and getting into Pennsic, after meeting your husband. Have you had a new interest after meeting your husband, like something that you and him do now that maybe he did and he introduced you to?
This is going to sound so silly, but it's the truth. I had, before we were married, I only put sugar and butter in my rice. He never grew up that way. He grew up, you always put salt, pepper, and seasonings. So that was our very first argument as a married couple. It was over rice. So now occasionally I will put salt and pepper and not the butter and the sugar. But my mom raised me, this is the only way you eat rice. He was raised, if you put butter and sugar in the rice, you're having breakfast rice. That's the first time I had ever heard of breakfast rice, even though that existed. But since we've been married, that I will sometimes now do salt, pepper, seasoned salt, obey versus the sugar and the butter. How about you and your boo?
I mean, I've gone camping, so I guess there's probably a lot more experiences that I probably wouldn't have experienced if it wasn't for Gary. So we went camping last year. It was fun. It was an experience, and I know a lot more things about cars and things like that because of Gary. And we made candles, and we've uh, gardening and things like that because I never really had the yard to garden. My mom always joked with all the things that I was starting to do, like crocheting and gardening, that if she called one day and I told her I was churning butter, she was going to come pick me up because she knew that I lost it. This city girl would never have done a lot of the things that I've done until moving in with Gary. But I love it all. It's just, I've gone to Red Fair. That was something that Gary and I've never done before, and Gary has. So, there are some things that we experienced, that he would do and that I do too. So, but
And I watch action movies now too. I was strictly
yeah.
comedy. So he did introduce me to some action movies. Oh, we have plants. I'm not a plant person, but our living room is full of plants. I liked animals. We had a cat. Now we have a dog. He's definitely into animals. We have two geckos. We used to have a lizard. We used to have an iguana. We've got a guinea pig. So yeah, animals, the type of movies I watch, and rice is something that, my husband kind of, widened it broadened my horizon in those areas.
So, Anne, this is what I think I've learned from talking with you today. Pennsic, 2 weeks in Pennsylvania. It's potentially hot, potentially cold, lots of food. Stay away from the bog. Don't go in the water. There's lots of leeches. And more people need to join. Did I get
Yes.
it all? Okay.
Yep.
See?
So when
I learned
all I
something
got
today.
from it was I can go fix a plate from all the food and go to the hotel.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you could potentially die for the rest of like once you die, you're done. Like you're not coming back. So if you want to stop battling because it's too hot, die quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to fight anymore. Kill me.
Oh, so we have EMS that are there for these battles, and they've
Oh,
been specifically trained on how to take helmets off of fighters when they get overheated,
oh,
because you put a lot of money into your kit. Like some of these kits are like pretty accurate, so you're putting a couple $1,000s in them potentially. So you do not let them ruin because someone goes to yank it off and they take like pliers or something to it. So yeah.
are there like kingdoms, like royalty part of this
Yes.
also?
Yes. So it starts with king and queen, and then they rule for like about 6 months for the year, and then there is a prince and princess. So when the king and queen would step down, the princess and prince will step up, and then below them are barons and baronesses, who have the local groups, and then there's even what they call a canton, which is a smaller group. It's not quite big enough to be considered a barony. I don't know offhand the exact number you need to be considered a barony, but it's kind of works its way down. But once you're a baron or a baroness, you can move up to fight to be king or queen. You start out as the prince and princess when you win crown, and then you'll become king and queen after that. And once you're king and queen, you get the title when you step down of duke or duchess.
Hmm.
Um,
Who
and you're
chooses?
always yeah. And once you're a baron or baroness, you're always a baron or baroness after that. Um, if you aren't on that higher level, you can get what they call an AOA, which is your award of arms, and you can be called Lord or Lady. I actually am Lady Cecilia of Godhard, in the SCA.
But
Huh.
your name is Anne. How'd you
Yeah.
become Cecilia?
Okay. So you can choose a name, a medieval name, when you're in the SCA, so you can be yourself. A lot of people will give variations of their own, what they call mundane name. I like the name Cecilia. Well, I didn't initially get the name Cecilia. Originally, I was called Cece, and I had to find a name to fit that because of one of the people who are in our barony. He just kept telling me, you gotta get a name. If you don't get a name, we're just gonna call you Bubbles. So I was like, okay. So some other people said, well, you look like you should be a Cece. So I found a name Cecilia, and originally it was Cecilia of Duncarrig, which is the name of our barony. And I didn't want to hold that name. I wanted to have a different last name. So I found the last name Godhard, which is actually the medieval version of my maiden name, Goddard. So now I'm Cecilia Godhard.
Huh.
Interesting.
Jen, what would your name be, Jen?
I don't know. That's putting me on the spot. I'm not sure. I know there's like a, a Jennifer spelled with a G. Looking into like mainly Irish. So, um, I don't know how to pronounce it or spell it, but maybe that. I don't know. How about you? Do you have a name?
I think I would be Fifi Foodie because I'd be there about the food.
You know what? I'm sure they could look in,
Fifi.
because all these names are documented. Like they have like a whole what they call a college of heralds, where they go through all the research and find how far back that name actually went and whether or not it was used. So sometimes you get names that are like, that is just out there, and they tell you no way, you can't use that. And other times they're like, well, you can't use it in that particular spelling, but here's another spelling of it that you can still use it.
I think Fifi could be used. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound too crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure they could find
And
a
do you want
friend.
to be queen? Do you want to be queen?
I don't know, because there's a lot of bureaucracy, and I'm kind of quiet. I'm more of a worker ant. I'm more than welcome to help you do things, but if I have to like govern over people, I don't feel like I could do that very well because I don't like conflict too much. So
I want to go just to see how like the king and queen, like how that. I mean, I don't want to be hot or fight or be
yeah,
covered in leeches, but I would love to like see how that works, like how they communicate. The king and queen go rounds. I'm guessing they go rounds and
yeah,
talk to people.
they have their own special camp where they camp and they give out favors to people who do service for their barony or for the kingdom. So they give awards out. The king and queen, sometimes even they are fighting. I've seen the king out there on the battlefield fighting for the kingdom. You can always tell him by his tabard, which has the coat of arms on it, and he'll have an actual crown on his helmet. We've had queens that have gone out there and fought for their queendom by their own right because they went out there and kicked butt, you know. So anything's possible.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wow, this is so interesting. It's like this is like a whole thing, like
Yeah.
royalty and positions. And now you have to stay in the outfits the entire time you're there.
Yes. They're trying when we're there. The only time we're not in our actual medieval clothes is in our camps most of the time because we're trying to create that atmosphere that you're in that time period. And if you're wearing a t-shirt and jeans walking around, it kind of breaks the aesthetic.
Well, there I
So,
go. I'm kicked out already.
yeah. But the medieval clothes we wear, they're made out of linen. So they're
Mm.
pretty breathable. And that's another thing. When you first start, a lot of people, they find that the clothes they're wearing are made out of like cottons and polyesters, and you quickly move out of those into linen because you start to burn up if you're in any other fabric because you just get so hot.
Hmm. How can someone join? Like, could Jen and I just show up? Is there a process for newcomers?
They do. Like you can find your local group, and you can find that, as I said, on sca.org and look up kingdoms, and it'll show you the different baronies in your area, and just start going to their events. Find one of their events and just show up and say, hey, I'm here. I want to learn about this. And they have newcomer classes. People are there at Troll or wanting those people to come in. Let me show you. They will even give you loaner garb at first in some baronies. They try to keep a couple extra like dresses or trousers and tunics just so that we can get the public to come in and join us. So it can be easy to get into it if you just look into it a little bit.
Has anyone not been able to join? Like, is there like a criteria? Do you have to meet some kind of requirement?
Oh, sorry. No, I have not heard of anyone who wasn't able to do it. I've heard of some people who've been told they can't play anymore because they've done some bad things in their mundane lives. But
Mm.
I've never heard someone not be able to join.
Okay. Okay. So just showing up to fix a plate is probably not going to work for them.
No, probably not. Um, but that also, so they have a food court at Pennsic that has a couple different places. They have Medieval Munchies, which serves, just food. They also have, I think, a couple ice cream places. It's kind of some food trucks. There's a Chinese food venue. So there's a little bit of variety. And then, of course, the people that own the property, the Coopers, they have their own little restaurant, ice cream shop there on property. So you can eat go to a camp and see if they will feed you, but you can go up there and be fed by one of the vendors that are actually there for food. So you could probably just walk in for that.
Where would we get clothes? Like where? So let's say Jen and I are like, you know what? We're going to go to our local chapter and everything. But where would we get the garments and how do we know that what we're wearing is the appropriate clothes to wear?
So you can make a simple tunic if you're able to sew, which is pretty good. I've seen people show up in kind of the Halloweeny costumes at first, but if you go to your local group and say, "Hey, I want to join," they can give you something, possibly
Okay.
to borrow a dress or something that they may have in their loaner gear to get you going, to see if you actually want to join or be a part of it. So there, it all depends on how creative you want to be.
Hmm.
I don't know. It sounds fun.
Yeah,
Sounds like a lot of work.
my first garments that I wore were actually hand-me-downs. I got a few things from the Loner Garb from the Barony, and then I also had a few garments that Evan had made previously for his ex, and I got those. I don't wear those anymore in particular because they're no longer the right fabrics, and I've gotten slightly bigger since I joined. But yeah, I mean, go for it.
And it sounds like interesting. It sounds like, just hearing you talk about it, I can tell that it's something that you are really into and something that you really, really enjoy. And I think that's probably what makes it fun for you and your husband because you both really enjoy doing it. Um,
Yeah.
Getting involved in it. Like I'm not the most crafty person. I can sew a hole or so I can sew on a button. But I don't know if I could make my own garment. But I think for you and your husband doing this, I think it's great. Now, even if it's even this community, I think that's awesome. I
Yeah,
really
that
do.
is
Well,
pretty cool.
they do have vendors who sell garb.
Oh,
So I've heard of people who have gone to Pennsic with diddly squat and come home with a full set of gear. So
oh,
it is possible to hit the right vendors, merchants, and fine. Linengarb.com is a really good company. I've got a lot of dresses from them. And then there's others that seamstresses that have joined and they sell their wares. So you don't have to be completely creative necessarily to join. You can come in as mundane and learn. They have Pennsic University even where you can take classes to learn
oh,
about different things. Yeah, I have yet to, I've only attended one class. I attended a class on medieval hair binding, which is taking ribbon and actually sewing it through your hair to keep it up on top of your head, and how to make I think they called it a Bernice cap, which covers your hair to
hmm,
keep it clean. So,
that is so cool. So how long has it been for you of going to Penzic? How many years?
so this year will be Pennsic 52, and I think I've gone since Pennsic 35-ish. So
Oh,
it's been
wow.
quite a few years.
Oh
Wow.
wow, it's a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I haven't made it to every Pennsic. There have been a couple Pennsics I did not make. Like when I first met Evan, he went to a Pennsic with the first Pennsic without me, and then I went the following year because plans had been made long before we had met. So that was that. But and then COVID, of course, shut us down for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no Pennsic during that time. And if we I think the year we got married, we didn't go to Pennsic that year because we put all of our money into our honeymoon instead of going to Pennsic. But for the most part, we've gone to a good deal of them.
Wow. Well, this has been awesome.
It has. Very
Yeah,
informative.
it's very. I'm just trying to picture it in my head. Getting ready for it, getting there. Are you sad when those 2 weeks are over?
A little bit. I worry a lot about stuff. So like that first week is what they call Peace Week, and we just recently started doing that one. We used to do the second week, which is the War Week. That's when they do all the fighting. But Peace Week is just really laid back. People are slowly putting their camps together and so forth. And that was actually kind of nice, was just being there and doing nothing really, just chilling and eating, and then going out for a walk every night. And then War Week gets a little hectic. By the end of the week, you're hot and tired and ready to go home so that you can take a nice hot shower in your own bathroom.
Oh yeah.
But it's sad and happy at the same time leaving Pennsic at the end of the 2 weeks. You're happy that you're finally going home so you can go see your fur babies, and get that rest, but it's sad that it's over at the same time.
Mm. Wow. Well, we thank you, Anne,
Thank you.
for hanging out with us on our. And you know what? This is our first live, and you will always be remembered as our very first live stream guest.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have no idea
You
what this is
will
going to sound like.
be no, and you will definitely be casted in the movie. Just saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to
You
let
will
us
be in
know
it.
who you want to play you when they come out with the It's Us Again, Felicia and Jen movie, how it all started.
Melissa McCarthy.
Let's do
Okay.
it.
I
Okay.
think she looks the most like me. I feel like she could play me well.
Awesome. So to our listeners, we have no idea what this is going to sound like because this is
No
live.
idea.
We have no clue.
We're asking again for tech help, editing help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to figure out how to stop this. So just in case I push a button and this ends, thank you again, Anne.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to say goodbye as I look for the button to stop this live recording. But yeah, everyone go tell your family and friends that Felicia and Jen actually have a live stream with Anne about Pennsic. See you later. Bye.
Bye everyone. Bye.
Bye.